I didn't sleep that night. Linda lay beside me, breathing softly, one hand resting on my chest like it had for nearly 3 decades. That familiar weight, once comforting, now felt like a lie pressing down on my ribs. I stared at the ceiling fan as it turned slowly, replaying her words again and again. Once the divorce is final, we'll have at least half of that, maybe more. In that moment, I understood something painful but clear. This betrayal wasn't sudden. It had been growing quietly, patiently. At 5:47 a.m., I slipped out of bed without waking her. I showered, dressed, and stood in front of the mirror longer than usual. The man staring back at me looked older, not because of age, but because innocence had finally left his eyes. I didn't confront her. I didn't cry. I didn't explode. I did what I had done my entire career. I planned. By 7:30 a.m., I was sitting in my car outside a law office in Richmond, far from anyone who knew us. The sign read, Patricia Morrison, ESQ, Family Law and Asset Protection. Inside, Patricia listened without interruption as I told her everything. The retirement package. The phone call. The HR leak. The financial advisor. The affair. When I finished, she leaned back slowly. Mr. Mitchell, she said, your wife is planning to divorce you. I nodded. And she believes she's already winning. Patricia folded her hands. That belief, she said calmly, is your greatest advantage. She laid out the rules clearly. Don't confront her. Don't change your behavior. Don't move money yet. Don't let her know you know. We're going to let her expose herself, she said. And we'll document every step. For the next several weeks, I became an actor in my own marriage. I laughed when Linda laughed. I nodded when she talked about retirement trips. I listened when she spoke about our future. One night at dinner, she squeezed my hand and smiled. I'm proud of you, Robert. 30 years, you did it. I smiled back. Inside, I knew something terrifying. She didn't feel guilty. She felt entitled. At Patricia's recommendation, I hired a private investigator. Marcus Shaw. Former detective. Quiet. Precise. I gave him everything. I don't want guesses, I said. I want facts. 4 days later, Marcus called. It's confirmed, he said. Lunches, hotels, private meetings. How long? I asked. 7 months. 7 months of lies. There's more, Marcus added. He's not just a financial advisor. He specializes in pre-divorce planning. My stomach sank. She was building a case against you, he said. And he was coaching her. Patricia reviewed the evidence carefully. This is strong, she said. Very strong. The retirement transfer was scheduled in 12 days. 12 days, she told me, where you act completely normal. So I did. Linda talked about downsizing. She talked about travel. She talked about new beginnings. All while planning to take half of my life's work. On a Tuesday morning at 9:15 a.m., my phone buzzed. Deposit complete, $3,200,000. By 10:30 a.m., the money was moved into a protected retirement trust. By 11 a.m., it was legally untouchable. At 2 p.m., Linda was served divorce papers. I wasn't home. Patricia insisted I stay away. Let reality hit her without you there, she said. The next morning, Linda's lawyer called. They demanded answers. They demanded negotiations. Patricia responded calmly. Adultery. Financial conspiracy. Illegal access to confidential records. Silence filled the line. Our offer stands, Patricia said. 40% of marital assets. No access to the retirement trust. 2 days later, they accepted. Linda moved out quietly. No screaming. No dramatic scenes. Just boxes. And distance. At our final meeting, she looked tired. "I never meant to hurt you," she said softly. "You meant to benefit from it," I replied. She didn't deny it. That's when I learned something important. Real revenge isn't loud. It isn't emotional. It isn't impulsive. Real revenge is silent. Strategic. Patient. I didn't win by destroying her. I won by protecting myself. The house felt empty the first night Linda was gone. Not quiet, empty. Every sound echoed differently. The refrigerator hummed. The ticking clock in the hallway. The staircase creaking under my weight as I walked past it. The same oak staircase where we'd taken Christmas photos for decades. The same staircase where I'd once believed we were building a future together. Now, it was just wood and memories. I sat alone at the kitchen table long after midnight, staring at a glass of water I hadn't touched. 28 years of marriage had ended without shouting, without closure, without warmth. Just silence. The divorce paperwork took weeks. Forms. Signatures. Appraisals. The house was listed and sold quickly. $920,000. I walked away with my share, along with my 401k, my personal savings, and the retirement trust that now held the value of my entire career. Linda didn't fight anymore. Her confidence had disappeared the moment she realized the game wasn't going the way she'd planned. That we met one final time in Patricia's office to sign the last documents. Linda sat across from me, hands folded, eyes tired. She looked older than I remembered. Not because of age, but because consequences had finally caught up with her. "I never thought it would end like this," she said quietly. "I don't think you thought it through at all," I replied. She nodded slowly. "I felt invisible," she said. "You worked so much. And David made me feel seen." I looked at her. "You didn't just leave," I said. "You planned to take everything with you." Her eyes filled with tears. "I know," she whispered. "And I'll have to live with that." She stood up, nodded once, and walked out of my life. For good 2 weeks later, I moved into a smaller house in the mountains of Virginia. 3 bedrooms. A workshop. A wide porch overlooking a valley that turned gold at sunset. No echoes. No lies. Just peace. I spent my mornings hiking. My afternoons woodworking. My evenings reading on the porch, watching the sun disappear behind the hills. For the first time in decades, my time belonged to me. I told my children everything. They didn't speak at first. Then they asked questions. Hard ones. Painful ones. But they understood. They had noticed the distance too. The coldness. The way their mother had checked out long before the marriage ended. We didn't choose sides. We chose truth. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt our relationship without secrets. 6 months later, my phone rang. It was Dave, my old colleague from Morrison. "Rob," he said, "I thought you should know, the HR employee who leaked your file was fired. She tried to sue the company. The case was thrown out." I exhaled. "And there's more," he added. "That financial advisor, David Thompson. He's under investigation. Multiple complaints. 2 other women came forward." A pause. "He lost his license." I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just nodded to myself and said, "Thank you for telling me." Justice doesn't always feel satisfying. Sometimes it just feels complete. That I'm 63 now. My retirement is secure. My days are quiet. My nights are peaceful. Some evenings, I still think about Linda. About the life we had. The version of the future I once believed in. But mostly, I think about how close I came to losing everything. All because I almost reacted emotionally. That day, the day I came home early, I could have stormed upstairs. I could have shouted. I could have demanded answers. And if I had, she would have prepared. Evidence would have disappeared. The truth would have been buried. I would have lost half my retirement. Maybe more. Instead, I stayed silent. And silence saved me. Here's what I learned. Betrayal doesn't always come with drama. Sometimes it comes quietly, through a phone call not meant for you to hear. When that happens, don't rush. Don't explode. Don't destroy yourself trying to hurt someone else. Protect your future. Gather facts. Let the law, and time, do their work. That I didn't win because I was cruel. I won because I was patient. I didn't take revenge. I took my life back. And that is the only victory that truly matters. That he didn't rush. That was the most dangerous thing about him. For 3 weeks after the hospital incident, I did nothing. No arguments. No questions. No suspicion. I became invisible again. At breakfast, I smiled. I asked my son about his work. I praised my daughter-in-law's cooking. Inside, I was counting. Not days. Mistakes. They thought I was broken. A 67-year-old man with a weak hip. A forgotten father. A useless burden. That illusion was their biggest gift to me. Because when people stop watching you, you see everything. That I noticed the late-night calls. Whispers in the kitchen. The sudden silence when I entered the room. One name kept appearing on the phone screen. RK. They never saved full names. People hide better when they think they're clever. I didn't confront. I researched. Every night, after they slept, I sat in the dark living room with my old laptop. The same one they mocked. Why don't you buy a new one? She once laughed. Because this one remembered me. R.K. wasn't a friend. He was a property consultant. A specialist in fast transfers. The kind used when people want assets moved quietly. Before someone dies. That's when I understood the basement incident. It wasn't anger. It wasn't an accident. It was a test. To see how fragile I really was. So I made my first move. A small one. Invisible. I called my old lawyer. The same man who helped me build everything. Before I trusted my own blood more than contracts. Do nothing obvious, he said. Let them believe they're winning. I smiled at the phone. That was already the plan. That night, I updated my will. Not dramatically. Not suspiciously. Just, precisely. Dates. Clauses. Conditions. Revenge doesn't scream. It waits. As I closed the laptop, I heard footsteps. She stood at the door, watching me. You're up late, she said softly. I looked at her and smiled. So are you. For the first time. Her smile didn't reach her eyes, because somewhere deep inside. She felt it. The old man in the basement had started walking again. The next morning, nothing felt different. That's the dangerous part about betrayal. It doesn't announce itself. It hides behind routine. My son left for work without looking at me. My daughter-in-law cleared the table too quickly. And I sat there, stirring cold tea, watching a family that was no longer mine. They thought I was still weak. They were wrong. At exactly 9:40 a.m., my lawyer called. I reviewed the property records, he said. There's been movement. My fingers tightened around the phone. What kind of movement? Unauthorized inquiries. Power of attorney drafts. Someone is preparing for a fast transfer. I closed my eyes. So it was true. They weren't waiting for me to recover. They were waiting for me to disappear. That afternoon, I went to the basement for the first time since the fall. The stairs creaked under my weight. Each step sent a dull pain through my hip. At the bottom, the concrete floor still carried a faint stain, a reminder of how easily life can change direction. I stood there longer than I needed to. Not in fear. In clarity. That's when I noticed it. A folder, half hidden behind old paint cans. I recognized the color immediately. Dark blue. Legal blue. My heart slowed instead of racing. Experience had taught me something important. When people rush, they make mistakes. Inside the folder were copies. Not originals. Property valuation drafts. Unsigned medical consent forms. And a handwritten note taped to the inside cover. Once cleared, proceed immediately. No name. No date. But I knew the handwriting. I'd seen it for years. That night, I didn't confront anyone. Instead, I placed the folder back exactly where it was. Angle, dust, position. Then I went upstairs and joined them for dinner. I laughed at the right moments. I complimented the food. I even thanked them for taking care of me. My son avoided my eyes. That told me everything. That at 11:12 p.m., after the house fell silent, I made my second move. I called my lawyer again. They're preparing documents, I said. I found copies. There was a pause on the line. Good, he replied. That means we move to phase 2. What's phase 2? Exposure, without accusation. The next day, I requested a medical evaluation. Public. Documented. Unavoidable. When the doctor finished, she looked directly at my son. Your father is mentally sound, she said. His injury is physical, not cognitive. I watched my son's jaw tighten. One assumption collapsed. That same afternoon, my lawyer filed a quiet notice. Not a lawsuit. Not a complaint. A legal freeze. No property transfers. No asset movement. No authority changes without my signature. The trap didn't slam shut. It locked silently. That night, I heard arguing. Whispers turned sharp. Sharp turned desperate. She's still alive, my daughter-in-law hissed. She won't be forever, my son replied. I didn't record it. I didn't need to. Some truths don't require proof. That I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling something unexpected. Not anger. Relief. Because now I knew. This wasn't about resentment. This wasn't about burden. This was about greed. And greed always overreaches. The next morning, I placed one envelope on the kitchen table. No explanation. No drama. Just a simple sentence written inside. I know what you're trying to do. Then I left the house. For the first time in weeks. I wasn't afraid to turn my back. When I returned hours later, the house felt different. Too quiet. Too careful. They smiled again. But this time. Their smiles were afraid, because the moment someone realizes you're not weak, they start wondering how much you've already seen. And how much time they have left. Before everything collapses. That I went to my room and closed the door. Phase 2 was complete. Phase 3 would be irreversible. And this time, they wouldn't see it coming. The envelope stayed on the table all day. No one touched it. No one mentioned it. That silence told me more than shouting ever could. When people know they've been exposed, they don't react immediately. They calculate. Just like I was doing. That evening, my son finally spoke. Not directly. Not honestly. Dad, he said casually, standing in the doorway, maybe we should talk about the future. You know, just in case. Just in case. I looked up from my book. In case of what? I asked. He hesitated. In case something happens. I nodded slowly. Something always happens, I said. Eventually. His jaw tightened. Later that night, I heard them again. Whispers behind a closed door. Urgent. Panicked. She knows, my daughter-in-law said. No, my son replied. He knows. That correction mattered. Because knowing is powered. At 8:15 the next morning, my lawyer arrived at the house. Unannounced. Unavoidable. He wore a calm expression and carried a thin leather folder. My son froze when he saw him. Good morning, my lawyer said politely. I'm here on Mr. Mitchell's request. I watched their faces carefully. Fear is subtle, but it always leaks. That we sat at the dining table. The same table where birthdays had been celebrated. Where holidays had been shared. Now it felt like a courtroom without a judge. I filed a temporary legal freeze, my lawyer said calmly. No assets, properties, or authority documents can be altered. My daughter-in-law spoke first. Why would that be necessary? My lawyer smiled. Because there have been attempts. Silenced. My son finally lost patience. This is ridiculous, he snapped. He's imagining things. I looked at him then. Really looked at him. You pushed me down the stairs, I said quietly. The words landed hard. His face drained of color. No, he said quickly, you slipped. I nodded. And you didn't call an ambulance for 40 minutes. No answer. My lawyer opened the folder. Inside were timelines. Medical reports. Witness statements from neighbors who'd heard arguing that night. We're not accusing anyone, my lawyer said. Yet. The word yet hung in the air like smoke. That afternoon, my lawyer filed another document. A formal notice of concern. Not criminal. Not civil. Preventive. It meant one thing. Authorities were now aware. And watching. The house changed after that. Voices lowered. Doors closed gently. Every movement felt rehearsed. They were afraid of making another mistake. That fear was my shield. That night, my son came to my room. Alone. I never wanted it to go this far, he said. Then why did it? I asked. He didn't answer. Because some questions don't have excuses, only truths. After he left, I sat on my bed, staring at my hands. These hands had built a career. Built a family. Built a life. And now. They were steady again. Not shaking. Not weak. Ready. That I made my third move. I sent copies of everything, documents, timelines, recordings, to a secure external location. Because the moment betrayal realizes it's cornered, it tries to erase evidence. As I turned off the light, I understood something clearly. They thought this was about inheritance. It wasn't. This was about control. And control collapses the moment it's challenged. Tomorrow, the police would ask questions. Not accusations. Questions. And someone in that house would make a mistake trying to answer them. The courtroom was silent. My son sat across from me, his hands shaking, eyes fixed on the floor. For the first time in years, he looked smaller than me. The judge read the final verdict. Charges of elder abuse, attempted murder, and fraud. Each word hit him harder than any slap I could have given. When the sentence was announced, my daughter-in-law screamed. Not for him. For herself. Because her name was next on the list, they took them both away in handcuffs. My son looked back once. Our eyes met. I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just relief. The kind you feel after surviving a long illness. Outside the court, the sun felt warmer than it had in years. I breathed deeply. Free. That I sold the house. Moved to a quiet town near the sea. No stairs. No locked doors. Every morning, I walk slowly along the shore. My hip still hurts. But my heart doesn't. People ask me if I forgive my son. I smile and say nothing. Forgiveness is optional. Justice is not that I didn't raise my voice. I didn't beg for mercy. I waited, because sometimes the strongest revenge is simply surviving and telling the truth.